Good morning to all. So in this class we will be beginning the third module of this paper, which is the Introduction to Softwares. So in this module we have 7 major topics that we have to focus on. So the first one is regarding the operating system, the functions of the operating system, and also regarding the principle behind the operating systems. And then we have different kinds of this operating system, which includes the Microsoft Windows and also the Linux operating system. And the fourth topic is regarding the free softwares, and also the fifth one is regarding the free software license, and the sixth one is regarding the different types of the software tools, which includes the Microsoft Office and as well as this Linux Open Office software. And lastly we have the system security softwares. So these are the topics that we have to focus on. So the first one that we should focus on is the operating systems. So the operating system is one of the most important aspects regarding the computer, in which we have to use this computer. We need a kind of operating system. So the operating system can manage the basic hardware resources and provide a more hospitable interface to users and their programs. And regarding the definition of this operating system, an OS is a set of computer programs that manage the hardware and software resources of a computer. So basically the operating system, the definition of the operating system is very important. So it just coordinates all these kinds of hardware and software resources of a computer. So I repeat, an OS is a set of computer programs that manage the hardware and software resources of a computer. Then an operating system processes the raw system and user input and response by allocating and managing the task and the internal system resources as a service to the users and programs of the system. And at the foundation of all the system software, an operating system performs basic tasks such as controlling and allocating memory, prioritizing the system request, controlling the input and output devices, facilitating the networking and managing the file systems. So these are the major kinds of topics which is related to the operating system, the functions of this operating system. So we have to focus on the 5 major functions of the operating system. So before that we have one more topic under the operating system, the introduction for this operating system. So these applications have had the command line interpreters as a basic user interface, but more recently have been implemented as a graphical user interface. So the GUI, which is the graphical user interface for the AIs of this operation for the user. And also the operating systems themselves have no user interfaces. System forms a platform for other system software and for the application software. That is, the operating system acts as an interface between the user's programs and system programs and the physical computer hardware. So the operating system is like the interface between the user's program, which means all these kinds of system programs, the applications in the computer, and also the physical computer hardware. So for example, if we are using a computer, if we are opening the Microsoft Office in that computer, so with the help of this computer system software, the operating system, we can access this the software, which is the Microsoft Office software, and we can use the keyboard, mouse, etc. to make the kinds of these files with the help of this computer system. So basically the function of this operating system, the major point regarding the operating system is that it acts as an interface between the user's programs, which means the system programs, and the physical computer hardware. And also we can see the relationship of an OS to the basic hardware in this kind of this figure in the textbook. So we have different types of users, from user 1 to user n, which means the infinity, and then from that user, the system and application program, it performs certain tasks and it gives the task to the operating system, and then with the help of this computer hardware it performs, and vice versa, we get the result in the computer screen. So this is the relationship of the OS between the basic hardware of the computer. So that's regarding the first part of this topic, which is the operating system. So we have the definition of the operating system and also some fundamentals regarding the operating system. So the first one is regarding the definition, in which it is a set of computer programs that manage the hardware and software resources of a computer. Then second one is regarding the graphical user interface, and the graphical user interface is to for the user to make the computer perform all the kinds of operations in a very simple manner. And the last one is regarding the softwares, application softwares, and as well as the system softwares. And the operating system is act as an interface between the application softwares and the computer hardware. So that's regarding the operating system that we should focus on. And then the second topic is regarding the functions of the OS. So the operating system have the 5 major kinds of these functions. So the first one is regarding the process management. So regarding the process management on the basis of these operating systems, the process is a system abstraction, which means the basic function of the system, computer system, and also every program running on a computer, be it background service or the application, which is a kind of process. And also the modern operating systems, they enable the concurrent kind of this execution of many processes at once with the help of this multitasking functionality. And also regarding the definition of this process management is that it is an operating system's way of dealing with running the multiple processes. So basically the definition of this process management is that the way of dealing with running the multiple processes by the operating system. So the computer system or the operating systems, they perform different kinds of operation at a single time. So these kinds of multitasking, multiple kind of this using all these kinds of programs is necessary for this for the operating systems. So for that instance, the process management is one of the most important factor, in which the process management is an operating system way of dealing with running multiple processes. So that's regarding the definition for the process management. So the one of the important factor regarding the process management is that it helps to manage or to coordinate all these kinds of programs, system programs, as well as the any other kind of these programs which runs in the operating system on the basis of their priority. And also the definition for the process, which is it is a system abstraction, the major function of the system, computer system. And then the most operating systems allow a process to be assigned a priority which affects its allocation of the CPU time. And also the process management involves the computing and distributing the CPU time as well as the other resources. So regarding the process management, the first one is regarding the definition of this process management. So it is an operating system's way of managing or dealing with running the multiple processes. So it is also a kind of important factor regarding the operating system, in which the function of the operating system in which to manage different types of process at a single time by the option which is the multitasking, which supports almost all these kinds of softwares. And the most operating systems allow a process to be assigned a priority which affects its allocation of the CPU time. And the process management involves the computing and distributing the CPU time as well as other resources. And we have different types of processes maybe available for these kinds of operating system, and the services provided through the process management are very important if the operating system supports multiple users. So most of these operating systems supports multiple users, and in a multi-user system at any given time the CPU can execute only one instruction belonging to any one of these programs competing for the CPU. And the function of this operating system in this regard is to keep track of all the competing processes and schedule them and execute them one after another. But while doing so, try to give each user an impression to perform all these kinds of tasks in which the user has these kinds of full control of the CPU. So this is regarding the first function of this operating system, which is the process management, how to manage different kinds of process in the operating system. It is also the first point regarding the operating system's functions. Second point is regarding the memory management. So the memory management deals with the allocation of memory and other storage areas to system programs as well as the user programs and data. So regarding the memory management, it mainly deals with the allocation of the memory, which means division of these kinds of this memory in the computer and the other storage areas to system programs as well as the user programs and data. So regarding the memory management, the one important point that we should focus on is that it deals with the allocation of memory at the different levels in the computer. So basically it means it divides all these kinds of computer memory to different specification, to the different levels, which means for the application software to store the data and also to perform different kinds of this task. So all these kinds of things are enabled with the help of this memory management. So the memory management which deals with the allocation of memory and other storage areas to the system programs as well as the user programs and data, which means that it allocates the memory management with the help of that functionality. It allocates the memory, the main memory of the computer to different segments, divide into different levels, which means the first one is regarding for the computer software itself, the application softwares. Second one is to store the data, and the third one is to run all these kinds of programs. So the services provided under the memory management are directed to keep track of memory and allocation as well as the deallocation of memory to various processors. The operating system keeps a list of free memory, and before loading a program into the memory from disk, the required memory area is allocated to it and the operating system updates the list of the free memory. Current computer architectures arrange the computer's memory in the hierarchical manner, and starting from the fastest registers, the CPU cache and random access memory and the disk storage. So an operating system's memory manager coordinates the use of these various types of memory by tracking which one is available, which is to be allocated or deallocated, and how to move the data between them. This activity usually referred to as the virtual memory management, which increases the amount of memory available for each process by making the disk storage seem like the main memory. So regarding the computer memory management, the operating system's memory manager coordinates the use of these various types of memory by tracking which one is available, which is to be allocated or deallocated, and how to move the data between them. So these are the major functions for the memory management, in which it allocates all these kinds of data. It coordinates the use of these various types of memory by tracking which one is available and which one is allotted or which one is deallocated, etc. And lastly, how to move the data between them. And this activity usually referred to as the virtual memory management. So this is regarding the one of the important factors regarding the memory management. So the first one is regarding allocating the memory to different levels of the computer programs, and as well as to create the free memory. And the second one is regarding the virtual memory management, which means tracking all these kinds of memory which is available for the user, as well as to coordinate all these kinds of various processes, and then to track the memory of this activity by allocated memory as well as the deallocated memory of the computer. So another important part of the memory management is managing the virtual addresses. If multiple processes are in memory at once, they must be prevented from the interfering with each other's memory, which means unless there are an explicit request to utilize the shared memory. This is achieved by having the separate addresses spaces. So regarding the memory management on the virtual level, on the basis of these virtual addresses. So if a program needs a specific amount of memory in order to run that program, so after closing that program, after terminating that program, we can assign the remaining memory to the other processes which is running simultaneously along with this process. So this is also done with the help of these virtual addresses, which means these memory allocations are tracked so that when a process terminates, all the memory used by that process can be made available for the other processes. So which means to shifting all these kinds of free memory to the other processes. So this is also a kind of memory management task. Then the last one is regarding the memory management is that the operating system can also write the inactive memory pages to secondary storage, and this process is called as the paging or swapping, and the terminology varies between the operating systems. So which means swapping the memory or paging the memory means to allocate the inactive memory, which is also known by the name the free memory of the computer, and it is also the typical for the operating systems to employ otherwise unused physical memory as a page cache. Request for the data from a slower device can be retained in memory to improve the performance. So regarding the memory management, the partition of the memory in the computer, there should be a kind of free memory allotted for the for using for the future to install the application as well as the softwares, the operating system softwares in the computer. So this also another important factor regarding the memory management, in which allotting the free memory in the computer. And the operating system can also preload the in-memory cache with the data that may be requested by the user in the near future. For example, the superfetch is an example for these kinds of actions. So the swapping the memory or paging the memory, which means to make the free memory allotted to install the future kind of this the latest kind of this operating system in a computer. So for example, if we install the Microsoft Windows in a computer, we can install the Ubuntu later on with the help of this free memory, allotted the free memory in that partition management. So these are the major important factors regarding the memory management. So the basic function of this memory management is that to allocate the memory for the different kinds of the purposes, different kinds of the processors. So it keeps tracking the data on the disk and optical storage devices, as well as the application programs deals with the data by file name and a particular location within the file. So basically the data management makes to manage all these kinds of allocation for the memory for different purposes in the computer. So basically different kinds of operating system provides the different levels of this kinds of memory management. Now we have the third topic, which is the device and file management or the device management of this computer system. So a contemporary computer system may include a wide assortment of these input-output devices, more formally called as these peripheral devices. Almost anything imaginable can be used as a peripheral device to the computer, and the peripheral devices can be generally classified into two major groups, which is the input and the output devices, and also the storage devices. The device management module of the OS, which hides the peculiarities of specific hardware devices from the user using the specific device drivers. Only the device driver knows the peculiarities of the specific device to which it is assigned. A device driver is specified the hardware dependent computer program, which is also the operating system specific that enables the another program. Typically an operating system or application software package or computer program running under the operating system kernel is to interact transparently with the hardware drive, which means in order to use a kind of input as well as the output device in a computer, we need the additional kind of this software which is installed in the computer. For example, if we are using a printer in a computer, we need to install the printer software, the interface software in the computer in order to perform that kind of task. So this is the basic function for the device management in the computer system. So the peripheral devices can be generally classified into two major groups, which includes the input and output devices as well as the storage devices. So the device management module of the OS hides the peculiarities of the specific hardware devices from the user using the specific device drivers. So like that, the device management perform different kinds of tasks in order to perform the device management of the computer, which means to coordinate all these kinds of input, output as well as the storage devices of the computer. And all operating system include the support of the wide variety of this file system. So regarding the file system is intended to provide a convenient management of information so that the user is freed from the problems related to the allocation of the space for this information, as well as other physical problems and such as these kinds of storage format and as well as the input output accessing. So the user only need to deal in terms of the logical structure and operations performed on this information, and file system may also offer the ability to share the information among the users and protect the information from unauthorized access. So regarding the file system, it helps to carry in all these kinds of data formats in the computer system, and we have different types of file systems are available. For example, in the pen drive, the file system is like the FAT32, which means a kind of system software system configuration which is assigned for the pen drive, the mass storage devices, in order to store the data. So we have different types of file systems are available. So the basic function of this file system is to provide a convenient management of information to the user, in which the user should be free from all these kinds of allocation. So basically, while we plug in a kind of this pen drive in the computer, there is a kind of specific space for that pen drive or the hard disk. So according to that space, we can allocate the data files or any kind of this media files to that pen drive or this hard disk. So that's regarding the second part of this device and file system management. So the first one was regarding the different types of devices, the input, output as well as the storage devices. Second one is regarding the file system. So all the kind of this operating system, they support a wide variety of this file systems. So basically in the Ubuntu or in the Linux operating systems, there should be different kinds of this file system is used, whereas in the Windows operating system there is another kind of this file system is used. For example, the NTFS or the FAT32, etc. So these are the some common type of this file systems that are available. So that's regarding the file systems. And also the file system may provide the journaling, which provides a safe recovery in the event of a system crash. A journal, the system writes the information which is in the twice, which means first to the journal, and which is a log of file system operations, then it to the proper place of the ordinary file system. So in order to recover the files from the file system, which means from the hard disk or in the pen drive, this option or this kinds of facility of this file system management is very useful in order to recover the files. So the file system just writes in the all these kinds of data. It writes in the two kinds of this function. The first one is to the journal as a report. Second one is to the ordinary file system. And in the event of a crash, the system can recover to a consistent state by replaying a portion of the journal. Soft update is an alternative to the journaling that avoids the redundant writes by carefully ordering the update operations. The log structured file system and also the ZFS, which means the zettabyte file system, a kind of file system, also differ from the traditional journal file system in that they avoid the inconsistencies by always writing new copies of the data, avoiding in place the updates. And many Linux distributions support some of these kinds of H2, which means stands for the second extended file system, and the H3 as well as the Razer 4, GFS, which means the global file system, then the GFS2, OCFS. So all these kinds of file systems are example for the different types of file system which is available in our day-to-day life. So basically the FAT system, which means the file allocation table and also the NTFS, which means the NT file system. Both these kinds of file systems are used in the Windows operating system. And so the Microsoft Windows includes the support for the FAT12, FAT16, FAT32 and as well as the NTFS system. So the NTFS, regarding the NTFS, which is the NT file system, so the that file system is the most efficient as well as reliable of the four different kinds of this file system that are available. And this is in which in this NTFS system, the operating system, which means the Windows OS, is installed in the computer. And Windows Embedded CE 6.0 introduced, which is the HFAT, which means a kind of file system which is suitable for the flash drive. So the term X means the external and the FAT means file allocation type. So these are the different types of file systems that are available today. And regarding the Mac OS, it supports the HFS plus, which means the extended version of this hierarchical file system as the primary file system, and it supports several other systems which includes the FAT16, FAT32, NTFS as well as the ZFS. So basically regarding the Mac OS, the HFS plus is the primary kind of this file system that are used in the Mac OS kind of that softwares. So this is regarding the file system software. So regarding the device and file system of the OS, we have different types of file systems are available as well as different types of devices, which means the input output devices as well as the storage devices are also in different types of sources are available. So we can depend upon the kind of this better kind of this softwares as well as the hardwares for the computer. So this is the third kind of this feature of this operating system. So the first one was regarding the process management, second one was regarding the memory management, and third one is regarding the device management. So under the device management, it controls the peripheral devices by sending them the commands in their own particular language. The software that knows how to deal with each device is called as the driver, and the OS contains all the drivers for the peripherals attached to a computer. So regarding the drivers installed in the computer, it helps to detect all these kinds of software or all these kinds of hardware components. So regarding if we plug in a pen drive to the computer, it detects these kinds of file system and we can open that kind of file system in the computer. So that's regarding the device management and as well as the file systems. And now we have the fourth point, which is the networking. So regarding the networking, most current operating systems are capable of using the TCP as well as the IP networking protocols, which means the transmission control protocol as well as the internet protocol. This means that one system can appear on a network of the other and share the resources such as the files, printers and scanners using the either wired or the wireless connection. So with the help of this networking, it means that we can connect to the another kind of this a group of computers. We can share our resources to another computer, another group, and also we can combine these kinds of performance to the all these kinds of process to a single computer as well as different types of computers. So basically it is very helpful for the office use in which we can control the printers as well as that kind of common kind of these devices from any kind of these computers which is attached to that printer. So this means that one system can appear on a network of the other and it can share the resources such as the files, printers and scanners using either wired or the wireless connection. So it is very helpful for the office use in which we can club all these kinds of computers to a common printer or scanner in order to take the printouts. And many operating systems also support one or more vendor specific legacy networking protocol as well as for the SNA, which means Systems Networking Architecture, on IBM systems, and the DEC net on systems from the Digital Equipment Corporation, and the Microsoft specific protocols on Windows. And specific protocols for specific tasks may also be supported, such as the NFS, which is the Network File System for the file access. So with the help of this networking, which means that every computer will support these kinds of file systems, different types of file system, and by accessing these kinds of network, by connecting to the another computer, we can share the resources to the other computer, as well as we can operate these kinds of printers, scanners, etc. So different types of operating system, they provide different types of this networking capabilities. So that's regarding the fourth topic of these functions of the OS, which is the networking. Then now we have the last topic of these functions of the OS, which is the security. So regarding the security, many operating systems include some level of security. Security is based on two major ideas, which means the first one is the operating system provides the access to a number of resources directly or indirectly, such as files on a local disk, privileged system calls, personal information about the users, and the services offered by the programs running on the file system. And the operating system is capable of distinguishing between some requesters of these resources who are authorized to access the resource and others who are not authorized. So regarding security, there is a kind of security for all these kinds of operating system. So the first one is the for the users who use this operating system. So maybe there is a different kinds of the user accounts for the operating system, in which one can access the files with a specific login, and the another can access the another kind of this softwares or the files from with the help of this another login. So this is also a kind of regarding the security factor regarding the operating system. And the second point is regarding the operating system, in which it provides the access to a number of resources directly or indirectly, such as the files on a local disk, the privileged kind of the system calls, personal information about the users, and the services offered by the programs running on the system. So it is purely about the different services offered by the operating system, in which it should be protected by the kind of security by every kind of the softwares. So regarding the operating system, for example, in the Microsoft Windows, there is a kind of inbuilt security option is available, which is the Windows Defender, as well as a kind of firewall. So all these kinds of security means it protects the computer files as well as the networking. While we enter to the world of the networking, it gives a kind of security for the operating system. And while some systems may simply distinguish between the privileged and non-privileged systems, commonly have a form of requester identity, such as a username. The requesters in turn divide into two categories. So we have different two types of this securities are available. The first one is the internal security, second one is the external security. So regarding the internal security, an already running program on some systems, a program once it is running has no limitations, but commonly the program has an identity which it keeps and is used to check all of its requests for the resources. So this means that a kind of inbuilt security for the Windows, like the firewall, all these kinds of this Windows Defender, like that. So it is the internal security. Then the external security means a new request from the outside of the computer, such as a login at a connected console or some kind of this network connection. To establish the identity, there may be a process of authentication. Often a username must be quoted, and each username must have a password. And other methods of authentication, such as the magnetic cards or biometric data, might be used instead. In some cases, especially the connections from the network resources may be accessed with no authentication at all. So second one is regarding the external security, in which there is a kind of authentication by passwords or the biometrics, or by the kind of this network connection of this login kind of that security. So this is regarding the external security of the operating system. First one is the internal security, which is inbuilt in every computer operating systems, and second one is the external security. So these are the important points regarding the fifth topic of these functions of the OS, which is the security. So with that, we just completed the functions of the OS. We have 5 major functions of the OS. The first one was regarding the process management, in which how to manage different kinds of process of the operating system by multitasking, and as well as by the different types of this process based on this computer softwares and the hardwares. Then the second one was regarding the memory management, how to allocate the memory to different segment, how to divide all these kinds of memory, which means the main memory and the secondary memory, which means the hard disk or the external pen drives, and also regarding the virtual addresses as well as the free space of the computer, in which to allow the another kind of this software or the any kind of this operating system in a computer. So that's regarding the memory management. The third one was regarding the device and the file system management. So in that we have the different types of devices in order to control the operating system, and as well as the file system, different types of file systems. Then the second last one was regarding the networking, to connect to the other computers and also to protect the computers as networking, as well as to share and communicate with the other computers. So we have different types of network connections are available, and we have to depend upon different types of connection according to different operating systems according to our needs. So the fourth one was regarding networking, in which we can share our data to another computer, we can communicate with the other computer, as well as we can control the other computers as well as the printers, the scanner, in which by combining all these kinds of external components to a computer. So that's regarding the networking. Different types of networking file systems are also available. And regarding the security, last point, we have the internal security as well as the external security, in which it protects the computer security, computer softwares, as well as we can authenticate all these kinds of softwares, and as well as the operating system itself. So that's regarding the security of this computer software, basically the operating system. So these are the major functions of the OS. So in this class we just discussed about the introduction for the operating system, the definition of the operating system, major factors regarding the operating system, and we discussed about the functions of the OS, the 5 major functions of the OS. So that's for today. In the next class we will be discuss the different types of operating system, which includes the Microsoft Windows as well as the Linux operating system. So that's for today. Thank you. Happy learning.